Are you looking for inspiring conversations about faith, film, and life? You're in the right place. Here's the host who knows the right questions to ask, Father Edward Looney.
Hey everybody, it's Father Edward, and today we have a great conversation. It's a conversation first about a person who has a cause for canonization and the process of becoming a saint, and also about a movie. So we're combining two of my favorite things, sainthood causes and movies, today. I had the chance actually to see this movie about a year ago now. I was or still am a part of this little prayer group that prays for Hollywood and such, prays the rosary. And they had on as a guest Tomas Sanchez, and he was talking about his movie at the end of the Santa Fe Trail. He was kind enough to share a link, a drive link with us so that we could watch it afterwards and everything like that. So I was so impressed with it. I immediately wrote a review, but of course, I've been waiting for like a year for this movie to either get distributed or be released or made available to the people. And so I'm so happy when Tomas reached out to me again and said, hey, we should have our conversation. We're doing a few releases, a few screenings in two different cities, whatnot. It's going to be available on DVD. So we're having that conversation today. So thanks so much, Tomas Sanchez, for joining me. He is a stunt guy and a movie maker.
Thank you for having me, Father.
Yeah, so
Honored
the
to be here.
movie is about a nun, or probably better put, a religious sister. You know, there are differences between nuns and sisters, but we kind of just put it all together as one. But so our topic is Sister Blandina. And Sister Blandina, kind of an interesting name, but she was a religious sister, I believe joins an order of sisters in Cincinnati, and then essentially dedicates her life. She's out on the mission trail. There's lots of stories. We'll get into it. But I'm curious how you got involved. How did you first hear of Sister Blandina?
Well, it's an interesting, story. My roots. I was born in New Mexico, and I was born at a hospital there, St. Joseph's Hospital, and in the hospital, I had a sister. My mother's sister was a nun, and was working in the hospital, and introduced us at a young age about a nun who had run-ins with Billy the Kid. And just to kind of, I think, keep us, when we were little, when she babysit us, keep us interested in things. And she talked about, that she taught the kids to play baseball and things like that. And always had, a little something to say, like a little story, like, little lines. And I couldn't remember them, until later in life. Like you said, I was a stunt guy, worked in the movie business for, since I was 19 years old, and one day ran across the story again. My mom was dying of pancreatic cancer, and she had just seen I had done a character on a film called Breaking Bad. It wasn't a very good character, but she told me, you should spend all your talent and time. You have such talent in telling real stories, stories that can matter. And if there's something, Tom, spend your time and money. Do something like that. Leave something positive, because I think you have to be careful of what images and things that you're working on. And I thought about that, and being, I grew up in the Catholic Church. I thought, yeah, maybe there is something like that. Maybe there are, and I just felt like, I picked up the comic book that had Sister Blandina on the cover, and she was there with Billy the Kid, and I was like, wow, this is cool. And I started looking into it. I'd done a couple westerns as and as stunt guy and stuff, worked on different movies, and thought, this could be a really cool story. And I found a book called At the End of the Santa Fe Trail, and it's a compilation of letters that she wrote back to her sister in Cincinnati on her journey. When she was 20, well, she did join the Sisters of Charity when she was young there in Cincinnati. She actually immigrated from Italy on her fourth birthday. Her family came, from Italy and landed in New Orleans. And actually, when she landed, you got kind of involved in her life mission of helping immigrants and the trafficking. She got involved at a very young age because at 4 they tried to steal her in New Orleans, and her father fought to keep her, and some other Genesese Italian workers that were there helped to snatch her back. And so she got introduced to, at 4 years old, America and what immigration, and it seems like her whole life she kind of dedicated herself to helping the immigrants that came to America. But also, she stood up for Native Americans, which is strong in New Mexico, and the Spanish, which, my family's been in New Mexico for 400 years. I don't have any relatives, I mean, they came from Spain or they're Native Americans. So, I'm American, and so she helped kind of that culture, and I found stories, and in her book is fascinating because she writes her day to day, and I recommend anybody that wants to find out the history of even New Mexico, but Colorado, because when she was 22 years old, the Sisters of Charity sent her to Trinidad. And of course, for a couple days, she thought she was going to Trinidad, the island. So she was getting ready to go to Trinidad. And then they told her, no, it's in the Southwest. And there, on her way out, she rode train, stagecoach, ran into some very interesting characters on the way out, saved a few people, by just basically, there's a story in the movie where, the orphan trains, they were sending a lot of kids to the West on orphan trains, and she happened to load on a train going there and found some kids who had lost their parents, and help them to kind of find a new family. And she just kind of jumped into it right away, into to helping. And and I just fell in love with her because she was so strong. She reminded me of my mom, and other strong women who had strong beliefs, but they worked hard, and the big part of their life was faith. Everything ran through God. You believed, you thanked God, good or bad. My mom, we, praying over our meals. I remember her, I mean, she was really, I mean, I think she had to kind of beat it into me a little bit because I was one that wasn't there. But I always tell her, she left me the greatest thing in life was the love for God and my faith.
Yeah, there's a lot in the movie. And so it kind of makes sense as you share that it's a lot about, this book at the end of the Santa Fe Trail, her letters. So you got to know and kind of could understand how she lived her life, the things that she did, because as she's going about to different places, for example, I wrote down in my notes, I still have my notes from last year when I watched
All
the
right.
movie.
All
They've been
right.
on my desk for an entire year, but, I wrote defended someone accused of murder, father of school kids, so forth. Sister advocated for the murderer and buried the dead person, cared for an outcast. So these are kind of things that I wrote down. Just the fact that she cared about all people, that she wanted to defend them, that she wanted to help them, that she cared for them, even if they were deceased. And so, um, yeah, so those are just some of the little highlights, I guess you could say. But you mentioned Billy the Kid, so that's one of the big things about Sister Blandina. So what is this whole Billy the Kid incident?
Well, there were several at the time, it's just like anything. There were several Billy the Kids running through New Mexico, and there are several outlaws. Some say that she didn't meet the real Billy the Kid. There's actually controversy, but through the findings, when someone is being canonized or beautified, they have to go back and trace all this history. And it was kind of amazing to see what the private investigator brought, because I asked, there's a private investigator that's studying all these, so-called things that happen in these miracles. And he told me that this particular thing was the real Billy the Kid, and he showed me where there was evidence. She first meets him, she's in Trinidad, and an outlaw rides through town, and he's dressed as a matador, and he comes up to her and she's playing baseball, she's teaching the kids baseball, and she always liked baseball because it was a mental game and kept the kids active. And she brought it from Cincinnati to Trinidad, and the natives were playing baseball, and she basically meets this guy, and you could tell he's an outlaw. One of the kids tells her, "Don't you know who that is? That's Snyder. He's one of Billy the Kid's gang." Well, he rides into Trinidad, and I guess he gets shot. Well, none of the doctors want to take care of him, and of course, like any small town, the kids know about what's going on and everything. So she found out through her students that there was a man, and it's similarly Young Guns too. They kind of take the story a little bit when Billy was shot, and he's in the hog. And he gets Billy the Kid in the Young Guns movie, but the reality is it wasn't Billy. It was his Snyder, one of his guys. She goes to take care of him and takes care of him while he's dying. None of the doctors want to take the bullets out of him, so she starts taking care of him, knowing that he's an outlaw, and he actually confesses some really incredible crimes to her. And in our movie, it's really when what happens almost similar to the outcast that was with Jesus that was dying at the end,
Mm.
that if you forgive and you want that. However, and I don't want to give away the movie, I don't know if he gets to that point, but it's a point to where she hears some of the most evil things that have ever been done on the Santa Fe Trail. Well, one day she continues to go to him, and it's some funny scenes because every time she goes to see him, something's going on. One day he has his revolver pointed to his head, and she said, "Hey, this isn't a good place for target practice." So she talks him out of committing suicide that day, and tells him that even the lowest criminal could be forgiven by God. And I think he sees that day. Billy the Kid comes to check on his guys. And so she runs into him. She's actually taking care of him. Billy doesn't see her in the room. And this is all true. We found it in facts. And he comes in, and through this story, we were able to kind of pinpoint that Billy was actually Billy the Kid. The real Billy the Kid was baptized in New York,
Mm.
and he was baptized with the Sisters of Charity. So when he walks in that room, that's not the first time he's ever dealt with her, a sister, and he doesn't do anything. He's an outlaw. She asks him not to take revenge on the doctors that aren't taking the bullet out of his comrade there, and sister asked Billy not to kill the doctors. And he was there with his group. They were going into Trinidad to scalp the doctors and that weren't going to help his friend. And she says, if you do that, then I'll have to take care of everybody that's hurt. And there's not enough of me. And Billy, because him and his brother and his mother were taken care of by the Sisters of Charity, he actually shows some compassion, and he says, "Okay, I'm going to leave the doctors alone, sister." So she actually saves some lives right there. And who knows what would have happened to the town of Trinidad if the three doctors that were there, because there was a lot of mining and railroad going on, a lot of people getting hurt. So, that was her first run-in with Billy the Kid. And then they became almost like he would give her a pass. Another time she was with a very famous governor and another gentleman on a stagecoach from on the Santa Fe Trail from Santa Fe to Albuquerque. And Billy is going to rob the train. It's very famous. This is a scene that's also in the comic book. Um, he's about to attack the stagecoach, and he recognizes her. And I mean, the stage guys, the outriders, they all know Billy is there. They've seen him. He's made the whistle. They've seen their guys. This chase has started, and Billy sees her in the stagecoach. He calls everybody off, and then what he does is he starts doing tricks for her riding alongside the stagecoach. He does some horse tricks and things, and then he just rides off and doesn't attack the stagecoach. and so they pass. So who would have known what happened if they would have robbed that stagecoach or shot everybody? There was a future
Yeah.
governor in New Mexico in there and a famous writer that was also in there. And you'll
Oh,
have to
wow.
watch the movie to see who those were.
Yeah, no, incredible stories, right? So, one of the things I really like about the movie you've done at the end of the Santa Fe Trail is that the fact, we had a movie a year ago now that was in theaters. It was Cabrini. It was about Mother Cabrini, and good movie put out by Angel Studios, all of that. But I personally wasn't a big fan of Cabrini. I thought it lacked a spiritual dimension. I didn't think it captured the life and spirituality of her.
Yeah,
And
they
so
passed on my movie for that one.
yeah,
They
well, I
passed
was
on.
left wanting, right? And so,
Yeah.
so I like your movie because here you are, you're showing a Catholic sister, and this sister is very influential. Like, you watch the movie, you'll see just her influence in the lives of different people, but you have spiritual lines in there. Like I wrote down a phrase, Mary, Mother of our Lord, teach her. So probably talking about another person to adore your divine son. She's writing letters. Like there wasn't a fear in showing her in prayer or as a strong woman of prayer. And so I really like that. So can you speak to a little bit, Sister Blandina, being a powerful woman as you portray her in this movie?
Yeah, well, yeah, I think the faith had a lot, to do with it in what she did because going, leaving at 22, they sent her to, to the West, and the only thing they gave her was a rosary, and pretty much, and that was her power. And in the book, she constantly reflected to that, and in my own life the things that I have overcome, times I've had to do stunts where I thought, this could get a little bit different. And one was I had to ride a horse backwards on this show and called Longmire. And, it was something that not a lot of people, especially at a full tilt with the mask on. And, and so I prayed and it went flawless. And I thought it was, and I was like, hey, so I believe in that. And then I actually pitched this film to Kappa Studios. And this is when I walked out of there, I reread my script. First of all, I didn't want to take from the book as much. And secondly, when I spoke to the Sisters of Charity to ask them, first of all, I didn't told him, I don't want any of your money to make your movie. A lot of people had approached them and said, hey, give us the money and we'll make the movie. And I thought Sister Blandini wouldn't want that. She wouldn't want to spend millions of dollars on making a movie for herself when that money could be given to better causes. And because of that, I thought, wow, prayer and the way she would, use her money and find things to trade for this and that. She was, I decided that it's important. And in the movies that I've worked with before, they always water down the faith. And in Hollywood, and I worked on some movies where it's okay for them to impose their will, so to speak, on us with their wants and their things in life. But sometimes they don't want us to impose our prayers or our thinking that God and things like that. It's kind of weird in the writing where it's okay that a dragon can fly in Hollywood, but I have a movie that has the Virgin Mary appearing, and some studios told me, hey, that's kind of a little, that's a little sketch. I mean, you know what I mean? I don't know. Some people don't really believe that she appeared. And I tell, well, if you don't believe that, then I don't know if how Christian you are. But I pitched this to Kappa Studios, the ones that do The Chosen. They help film, and they wanted me to take all the scenes with the rosary out. And so I left that meeting and I said, I have a good movie and I did it right because it's making them uncomfortable. And Sister Blandina would make, the comfortable uncomfortable and the uncomfortable comfortable. That was one thing that I think I draw from her. And so I said, I think I have a good movie now. I'm just going to stick to my guns and I'm not changing it. And so I went for more. And so we started looking more where we could put more prayer. And there's a scene where it's a true lady in Trinidad. They called her Crazy Ann. And in Sister, there's a some stories about her. And she was the first prostitute. Later, Sister Blandina brings into the church. But they when she her and another gentleman, they freeze to death. But she says some prayers that her mother gave her that people that have seen the film said, "Wow, when I was in Ireland, that was a prayer." And I think you quoted one of the lines too, where and I said, "Hey, that has to be in the movie." And I'm so glad I went back after that movie and put more in. And if I would have shot some more, I would have put more in. So I don't know if that answers your question or not, but it was through somebody saying, "Take it out," that I wanted to make sure that those things were in. And I probably could have done better and made, more things. And my films going forward are going to have the more imagery, more praying, more because we need it, and Hollywood will put the other stuff in it. And some of that stuff isn't what we really should be seeing or watching. And there is
Yeah.
there is an agenda there.
Yeah. Well, you're talking about prayer and prayer in a movie. Now, there was a movie shot, decades ago, and it is The Bells of St. Mary's. I'm sure classic, Bing Crosby. Lots of people have seen it. So you got,
Yeah.
Father O'Malley, and you have this other sister, whatever her name was, mother or sister, whoever. And I'll tell you, as a priest, and as one who has watched The Bells of St. Mary's more times than I could tell you, like a dozen times, there's a line at the movie at the very end. Father O'Malley and Sister are all at odds. Sister thinks Father O'Malley is sending her off to Arizona because he doesn't want her anymore. But he's sending her off to Arizona because she has tuberculosis and she needs the warmer climate. And so Sister goes in and she prays in the chapel in the church, and she prays before the tabernacle. And it's a beautiful shot that they have. And she says, "Lord, remove all anger and bitterness from my heart." And I can't tell you how many times I've quoted this movie, and I always paint the picture. I always share that line with people in the confessional. I've preached about it. I pray that prayer so often myself. And this is a movie from, again, decades ago. I watched it. I was moved by that prayer. And it's been forever impactful in my life and in the lives of so many others with whom I share it. So when you put prayer in a movie, as you're doing, maybe one of those lines, like the fact that I wrote down this line, "Mary, Mother of our Lord, teach her to adore your divine Son." Well, I can make that my own. "Mary, Mother of our Lord, teach me to adore your divine Son." And so, like, I could, when I go to adoration, when I go to a holy hour, maybe that's how I start. "Mother Mary, teach me how to adore your Son, Jesus." And, that's a line from your movie. I wouldn't have written down otherwise. So yeah, I think those prayer scenes are powerful and impactful and so necessary. So thank you for putting them in and hopefully inspiring others with them.
Yes, I think it well, and it wasn't too hard because in the book, I mean, she has some incredible things and so much. I really originally I wrote this as a TV series with Bob Young, who did the Ballad of Gregorio Cortez, and he's won numerous awards. He passed away a few months ago, but he was my mentor in telling the story. And he read the book and told me this is the greatest story. America needs to know this story. And he always, told me, and I mean, he wrote, Nothing But a Man, one in Paris, France. He wrote, uh, uh, God, why am I going blank on all his films? He's won a lot of awards. He produced a movie with Eddie, does a lot of work with Eddie almost, and 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 with this story, what was great is Bob was not Catholic.
Hmm.
And and so him and I had some incredible conversations, with writing the series. Of course, when I wrote the series and I pitched it in Hollywood, this was in 2017. It wasn't faith. The COVID hadn't hit. Faith wasn't a deal. They always told me, "Do you have something with zombies or werewolves or something?" Because right now this isn't hot. A Nun and Billy the Kid. So I went back after COVID and then the writer strike. work was down for me as a stunt guy and a stunt coordinator. And so I said, I'm going to turn this story needs to be told. And so we just turned it into a feature. And so I said, I'll turn it into a feature film so people know the story. And but it was very hard to turn it into 80 minutes or even an hour because there's probably 6 hours of
Hmm.
incredible stories. I mean, running into Geronimo. I mean, there's a story, she always battled the local legislature. It almost seems like all the things that she was fighting for, we're still fighting for today.
Hmm.
You know, mistreatment of elderly, mistreatment of immigrants. We're hoping that the she'll be the patron saint for immigrants. You know, um, uh, and safe passage to people all over the world because, I mean, she helped the Native Americans. I mean, there's stories, incredible stories, that she wrote, said, you're not going to believe it. I mean, I couldn't put the book down, and I guarantee you, and if you all get the book and your viewers and listeners get it, you'll see there's just some kind of cool things. And she has these great sayings. Like I remember there's one where, she tells in her another sister, they built a schoolhouse with just a crowbar in Trinidad
Hmm.
because she just got up to the old one was falling down. And she said, if I get up here and just start doing things, hopefully these people will see me and maybe they'll, help. And sure enough. And so, there was just some incredible stories that we didn't know really what to put in, take out and what to put in. So I'm glad that you liked it because I made this movie for the Catholics because so many times like with my son or my wife we see a movie and you really can't watch anything on regular TV and stuff anymore. It's not made, you know what I mean? It's made for, you like I think you said on the conclave, like the conclave. I don't want to slam somebody else's vision, but I think that little storyline at the end that kind of, throws people off, that was a touch of Hollywood, I think. Maybe not. I don't know. But I didn't want it to be like that. I don't want this. People go, oh, well, people who aren't Catholic, they're not going to like this film. I go, well, I didn't make it for them. I mean, if they watch it, great, and that's all. But just like Hollywood makes movies for certain people, I want to make movies for Catholics that's inspiring. I want to be inspired, and so I hope that this movie is for us 3 million out there that don't want to they want to think positive and think about, hey, the goodness and what can we do that's good instead of slamming or taking.
Yeah, so you said there that your partner that you wrote this with said America needs this story. And so, I hold fast a statement like that. Like America needs more saints. America needs a saint like Sister Blandina. And so, yeah, in the cause of canonization, it's a lengthy process. It's been open for a while. Sometimes these causes become stagnant, but sometimes new life can be breathed into a cause. And I would say a movie about her life, and if it gets people talking, and what it's going to do is it's going to get people praying, asking Sister Blandina also to intercede for them. So, yeah, I think your movie could really help with that. So now it's going to be showing in two different cities. And so tell us how people can watch this, maybe in person, or maybe how they can get a hard copy of it.
Yeah, in December, I believe it's the 16th or 17th. I think they were having something in Cincinnati with the Sisters of Charity. That's um, her group, and then in New Mexico we have a screening there. New Mexico is who put the cause, the diocese there. Alan Sanchez, he presented the cause of her candidacy as a New Mexico saint. So if she is canonized, it would be our first saint in New Mexico from New Mexico. And you can, I believe that is December. Gosh, I think it's the 20th. And yeah, it is. It's December 20th in Albuquerque. The Archdiocese of Santa Fe is screening it. And we're really just kind of releasing the DVDs. I mean, we have a couple of like international. I'm still looking for a domestic um a distributor who wants to work with us, knowing that we already have a lot of the DVDs already sold to the churches. I've been reached out from dioceses all over, and any diocese, we can get them out to them. You can email me at Sanchez Films LLC at gmail.com, or I don't have a problem with anyone calling me direct if they'd love to get a copy. I mean, they're selling them for $16, and it's a great film, and a portion of it goes to the Santa Maria Institute in Cincinnati, one of her programs that's still up and running. And so, anything I can do, that way we have a streamer at this day. Legally I can't say who the international streamer is yet until the contracts, I guess, are signed. And I'm actually
Oh,
going to Vegas this weekend because AFM, the American Film Market, is there, and we have a few people that have talked to us and said, "Hey, let's try to do something." I'm not the salesman; I'm a filmmaker, so I got to let the business people handle that. Me, I just want it out there. I just think it's an incredible story.
yeah. Well, great. So is there so people would email you to buy a copy of it, or
Yeah, they
there's
can
no
go to
central website?
yes, Cinevision
Okay.
Global, and they also have it online there too. That's the LA partner for production.
Okay.
Vision Global.
Well, good. I'll put all the information, in the show notes and the description of our episode today so that people could maybe more readily get that. Yeah, I hope it comes out on streaming. That'll make it more widely available. So there's a lot of great hope, I think, with it. So yeah, I'm grateful you told this story because if it wasn't for you, I never would have heard the story of Sister Blandina.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. A lot of people have told me that. They said, and what's great is every time I met, and we did do some film festivals. We won at the Santa Fe Film Festival, and I think in Farmington, and it's been well received when I have shown it. Um, you know, people come up to me and go, I know a sister like her. I grew up with, and so it was kind of cool to see that, even people can relate to her because they might have known a sister like her, and you see all these other people, and that's why I say, there's a lot of saints out there, really. Some of them get canonized and some of them don't. But, we should just celebrate, you know, e- all
Yeah.
of them.
Well, knowing her story is a help for us. So, I looked up the prayer. So when there's a cause for canonization, there's always a prayer that people could pray. So I'm just going to read these words of the prayer, and maybe make a comment and get your reaction too. Yeah, I'm sure you've seen the prayer, but here it
Yes.
is. It says, "Let us pray. O God, whose sweet name Jesu, Jesus, was the first word to roll off the innocent lips of your servant Maria Rosa Segale, hear our prayer." The word Jesus rolled off her lips for 91 years as she built schools, hospitals, and social institutions, welcoming all and introducing them to your love and hope. She cared for the immigrant, the innocent children, and the guilty outlaw, always recognizing the dignity of the human being. We beg you that Sister Blandina Segale now be counted among the saints of Holy Mother Church, and that our hearts be open to always praise your name, as your servant Maria Rose Segale did until her last breath. May we do as she on her deathbed, whisper Jesu, smile, and die in you. So beautiful little prayer. And you know what I take from it? Her first word was Jesu, Jesus. Her last word was Jesu, Jesus. And so what a beautiful story end of beginning and end of a person's life. To say the name of Jesus as your first and last word. So yeah, very powerful little prayer.
Yes. And she was actually the one too who brought Marianne Seaton's cause. She's the petitioner for Marianne Seaton to become a saint. She took all, I guess, all the information and have this beautiful picture of her taking this, getting ready, and she's 90 years old to Rome, to the Vatican for the petition of Marianne's sister Seton, who's the founder of the
Oh
Sisters of
yeah.
Charity. Uh,
Wow.
and another picture, and what this reminds me of the prayer is that, like the outlaws that she ran across, you know, when she gets back to Cincinnati, she doesn't always stay in New Mexico, but because she met those rough characters, she goes back to Cincinnati. And later in her life, when I hear this, the outlaws, the guilty outlaw, um, she actually becomes a probation officer. And there's stories about her and a very famous uh, gangster in Cincinnati.
Hmm.
She taxes him. She tells him, if any girls come into my hospital from this place B, I'm gonna tax you for every one of them. And so, you know, people go, how could she just walk in there and do that? Well, her history in New Mexico when she was younger, she was around some of the worst criminals, and outlaws in the Wild West, where if they didn't like the way you looked at you back then, they'd just shoot you. There was so much violence back then when she was in New Mexico and she confronted Billy the Kid. And there's other stories of some very, me, even Geronimo, she actually has an encounter with where, you know, I think he passes on taking her, with the rest of the the group that the little band of they call it a raiding. They were raiding at that time, and it's kind of a funny story, but those outlaws and being like that, how many people, help the outcasts and the outlaws and give them a dignity. Say, hey, you know what? You can make yourself better. Instead of most people, when they know you're guilty, you know what I mean? They just leave you to your core. And her
Yeah.
one just showed me that prayer reminds me of that, she's there she came to help the sinners, not the saints.
Yeah. How beautiful. And yeah, how blessed you are to be able to tell her story. And are
I
there other stories that you're working on?
I have a couple. I have one that I made before this, and it was a short called "The Lost Pueblo." And it's a story about two kids who get lost, and the Virgin Mary appears and to them. And I want a bunch of words that they want me to make it into a feature film. It was a short, beautiful story. I did it. It has a monster in there and everything, a lot of things. But and that's out. But I have two other ones. One's called really cute story I'm doing with some people from Yellowstone, and I have some of the actors from there, and it's called One Little Angel, about a little girl who loses her mom at a young age, and everything, and then has to find herself, and a little angel kind of helps her get through these
Hmm.
these tough times of missing that, and that'll be out. And I have another story I've been working on, and maybe I can have you help me collaborate, because there's some points I'm still working on the script with a story about the day after Jesus was born, and Joseph has to take them. He was given frankincense and myrrh and
Oh yeah.
gold. All that. Well, what happened to that, and what is the story? Sometimes they kind of leave that be, and there
Sure.
were some incredible things that Joseph does, and as a father, and in our day, so many kids without fathers, and so many men, I think if they see that story and say, hey, even if that's not technically my kid, but it is what he had to go overcome, and how he became, and what he had to do, because I don't think people don't think of Joseph being this, but he had to be very brave to take them through those days after that, with Herod chasing them, and all those thieves that were on that, what is it, Damascus, that road that they had to take back in to get out to Egypt. That there was like so many murderers and thieves on there. How
Mm.
did he get through that? And
Yeah.
it was kind of so I'm working on something like that, just some of those kinds of stories.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, I have some thoughts on that, so I could give some
Yeah.
feedback. So there are some mystical writings you could refer to get some get some thoughts. So
Yeah, maybe I need you to come on and consult with me.
yeah, well, I'd be happy to do so. Well, great. Well, the movie is called At the End of the Santa Fe Trail, based on a book, also of that same title. Well, kind of based on the book, but there is a book. So if you want to watch a movie about Sister Blandina or read something about Sister Blandina, and I just Googled Sister Blandina and found that prayer. So there's other things out there online. But yeah, I think it's time
Yeah,
for us to.
the
Oh,
trailer line, and also I think on that it'll let you know where you can order at Cinevision Global. You can go to that, and yeah, there's some other great stories. There was also a documentary recently done on her, after they saw my film. The local channel in Cincinnati did a nice documentary for people that want to kind of see that. It's a little
yeah.
longer.
Wow. Amazing. So wonderful. Well, thanks so much for introducing us
Oh, thanking
to
you.
Sister Blandina.
Thank you, Father. I really appreciate your time today, and thank you for all your listeners, and God bless you.
If you liked today's episode, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you're listening. And don't forget to stay up to date with what Father Edward is doing by following him on Facebook, X, or Instagram at the handle @FrEdwardLooney. Thanks for listening, and please join Father Edward again next time for another inspiring conversation.